Hey guys, so I have Mr. Mark Belesh with me today, and he is the president of TorontoJobs.ca, and he's going to talk to us about the job market in Canada before and after COVID. So let's welcome Mark. Hi, Mark. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you so much too for taking your time out on a Sunday afternoon like this. So, Mark, I just have a couple of questions that I want to ask you on behalf of our subscribers of our YouTube channel. So, with the COVID lockdown, immigrants who are planning on moving to Canada, or they are already in Canada, or some of them are waiting to move to Canada, they're worried about how the job market is in Canada, and so I thought I'll ask you about that today. And I wanted to know, I have like three different questions. So I'll start with the first question. Is if you can tell us, if you can give us a comparison of the job market, how was it, before the lockdown, before the lockdown was initiated in March, how was the job market in general in Canada and in Toronto to be specific? And how has it been during the lockdown? And how will the job market be after the lockdown? Can you give us some, the ground reality of what's happening out there? Because as a recruiter, you will have more insights on these questions. So, can you tell us about all these three? So, I have the three questions laid in front of you, so you can just go on in whichever order you like. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess before this pandemic came out, it was probably in my 25 years in recruiting, probably one of the best recruiting markets we've ever seen. The unemployment rate was extremely low. We had practically full employment. Wanted jobs were getting them. We had situations where a lot of companies were struggling to find staff. We
Okay.
had situations where, a bad situation, I guess, was the people that were ghosting, going for interviews. So meaning that they weren't showing up for interviews. And some of your viewers, so people listening here, they might be thinking, well, why wouldn't somebody show up to an interview? Well, it happens when there's a high demand of jobs or demand of candidates and a low supply of candidates, and what happens is people don't show up. So there was that going on as well. So all in all, I mean, it was very vibrant. It was a great time. Recruiters were doing well,
Okay.
and the economy looked like to be set for 2020 to be a really great year. And
Right.
January, February
Mhm.
were two of our, really best months that we've had as a company at TorontoJobs.ca.
Okay.
Then we rolled into around March 15th, and that was the time when everything really changed. The world in North America changed. I think every country's kind of going through its own changes at different points in time.
Right.
So around March 15th, a lot of stuff changed as companies started laying people off very, very quickly.
Okay.
They didn't seem to take very much time to make those decisions. Unlike, if I look back to 2008, 2009 with the credit crisis, it took a bit of time for companies to really
Mhm.
understand and appreciate that we were going through a negative time, a recession, and
Right.
had hiring and economic times. But it took a little bit of time before companies start really, doing it. I think I think it was in October, if I'm looking back, in October of 2008 was the real stock market crisis.
Mhm.
But it was not until February, March of 2009, so really 4 or 5 months later, where really the job numbers started showing up as really, really negative. So in this time around, I think we're in a very, very different situation where companies did not wait around to find out how this was going to end. They went out and just laid off staff, and the numbers really prove that. The job numbers that were announced just this past Friday
Mhm.
for April showed that there were 2 million people that were let go, lost their jobs in Canada
Okay.
for the month of April, which is staggering. It's completely staggering. Uh,
Okay.
the worst I'd ever seen it before was about 80 or 90,000 jobs that were lost in 1 month, and that was in 2009, February and March of 2009.
Okay.
So companies didn't wait around. So if we bring it up to today's date, May 10th, we're in a situation where companies have just kind of frozen hiring. The government has stepped in to really help out companies with the wage subsidy program. They want government of Canada wants people to feel connected with their employers. So the wage subsidy program helps continue that pay for employees,
Right.
and it's covered at least, well, so the government covers 75% of the wages up to a certain amount.
Okay.
So it helps to keep people connected with their employers and employers connected with their staff.
Mhm.
Now, that's supposed to go till June 11th. They
Okay.
have just announced that they will continue that program for employers for past June, but they haven't said how long.
Okay.
On the job seeker side, job seekers, as long as they made certain certain money of $5,000 over the course of the last year, they've been eligible to receive the Canada Employment or Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or more commonly CERB, CERB,
Yeah.
and that works out to $2,000 a month. So to basically stay home, don't go to work, don't, we want people to stay home to try to fight this pandemic and fight the spread. So in the whole scheme of things right now, where we sit, we have on the company side, we have companies that are kind of saying, well, we don't know what's going on. We've laid off a bunch of staff. If anything, we might bring those people back when this thing is all said and done. Are we growing? No, our sales are down. Most companies' sales are down. So we're not going to really do a whole heck of a lot of hiring. On the candidate side, or job seeker side, we've got a situation where the government has said to everybody, hey, we'll give you $2,000 to stay home every month.
Mhm.
And, it's not bad. I mean, if somebody was making, say, $35,000, $40,000 a year, or, something like that, well, this gives them $24,000 annualized salary, but you don't have to, you can stay home. No commuting to work, no expenses with lunches, no anything. You can just stay home and not work. So it's kind of attractive. I mean, it might not be 2,000, might not make it work for everybody, of course, but people aren't really spending money on anything right now either. So that's kind of what's going on now. And then if I go to kind of where I see moving forward,
Mhm.
that one is a hard to know. That's I think what's going to happen is, as long as this wage subsidy keeps going, then employment will stay at least at a bottom level where it is right now. It'll stay firm. As soon as that wage subsidy program gets taken away, if that's too early, then what will happen is companies I believe, will lay off more staff again. We'll get into the second wave of layoffs. So I think the government's treading on a very fine line right now, where they have to decide at what point is the wage subsidy going to be taken away.
Mhm.
Offset with that, with our companies going to bring people back. So it's a difficult balancing right now for the government to figure out what to do with companies, because offices are closed and people are at home. They're not doing, they're not working. I mean, they are working, but hours are shortened. I'm sure there's kids at home for a lot of employees, so they can't really work like they used to work.
True.
And in terms of searches right now, what we're finding is we do still have some companies that are searching for certain roles. It is it is actually a bit difficult to find the right candidates for those roles, because the ones that are working are kind of unsure about leaving during what's going on now to go to another company.
Mhm.
But we are finding that there are still companies that are hiring, and some companies have even announced big hiring, like Amazon, Walmart. They've announced that they're hiring thousands of people.
Mhm.
So somebody may think that, well, I don't really want to work at Amazon or Walmart, because they think they're just, maybe more junior level positions or retail positions. But the reality is, when you hire a lot of people like that, it creates opportunities in accounting, customer service, other areas as well, payroll. So it's not just the retail positions, and that's how people should be looking at it.
Okay.
So does that help? So kind of looking forward,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a bit of a slow,
Okay.
as businesses start reopening, as kind of business goes back to normal.
Right.
And it's going to be a slow. Companies are going to be very slow in hiring back employees until they see the sales come through. So it's a bit of a
Mhm.
chicken and an egg, because
Right.
you've got companies that are waiting to see the sales come back before they hire people back, but
Yeah.
you can't. The economy is not going to get going again until people are hired back and they feel
Yeah,
comfortable
so
about
it's
their
a
jobs. So,
circle. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, different from 2008, 2009, where it was a man-made crisis back then,
Correct.
whereas this is a health issue and it's
Correct.
impacting jobs in a different kind of way.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and the workplace is going to change. The workplace is going to change. Like companies are going to have to adapt to people possibly working from home all the time, hiring people just by doing video interviews, doing video training, video onboarding,
Correct.
doing maybe half the office is at home half the time.
Yeah.
Staggered hours. Every industry is going to have to really reflect on what is going on, what they should be doing, and where things are going. So, hope I answered your question.
So, what do you think of? I mean, I am thinking about this in terms of immigrants coming into Canada, because the immigration, I think even the immigration minister announced a couple of days ago. So they are not closing down immigration; they're still accepting, the permanent resident applications. It's still ongoing. The express entry is still on. A couple of provincial nominee programs are only considering residents who are already in Canada, to process the permanent residency. But apart from that, the express entry is still on, and which means that a lot of people this year are going to get their permanent resident status, and which means they're going to come into Canada and they're going to start looking for jobs. So, is there anything positive? When do you think you can start seeing things getting back to normal? End of this year, next year? What's your take on that? Maybe not in the immediate 2-3 months, but towards the end of this year, do you think things will get back to normal, or is that too much to ask at this point of time? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if somebody's coming from overseas and they're new to Canada, I think they're going to have some challenges because they're competing not only with other people who are also coming to Canada, but they're also competing with people who have been in Canada who are looking to try to get either new employment or go back to with their employers. As for timing, I'd love to say, hey, it'll be back to normal in the next couple of weeks or whatever. But I think right now I would say that I don't think before the end of June things will be really comfortable and back to normal in a sense of like stores opening. I think the government is really looking at how those phases are going to come through. Phase 1 will reopen certain areas. Phase 2 will get into the next opening, and phase 3 will get into the real opening of everything. I don't know that we're kind of in phase 1 now, where they're reopening some parks and some stores can have curbside pickup, but people can't go in stores. Probably phase 2, I'm guessing, will probably be in the summertime somewhere. I'm guessing. I think really the answer lies into when the schools will reopen, because once the schools reopen, then people will go back to work. Because right now, if there's no daycare, there's no schools, people are forced, their mothers, fathers, families have to work from home. Like there's not many choices because there's no daycare either.
Correct.
So I would think that maybe by September would probably be a good maybe for the schools to reopen.
Yeah.
On a very, 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 very restricted type basis, where people have to walk in hallways one way and so on. It might be difficult with schools, but I think if we can get to that point, then businesses will reopen. And then when businesses really reopen and people are back to work and working together, I think that's when we'll start seeing like a real, it doesn't feel right, but it's at least kind of getting back to where it is. So that's would be my prediction, would be September. We're planning on our live events starting back again in September, our job fairs, recruiters conference, and so on.
Okay.
So that, I think that would be probably a fair guess, but then they're saying that there might be a second wave coming in the fall of coronavirus. So I don't know. I'm encouraged by the numbers going down because everybody's at home in terms of new cases. But the reality is who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
True. You have some of your live events supposed to be in May, right? So those are the live events that you postponed, and you're going to have them in September. Is that correct? The Toronto Jobs live.
Yeah, we were going to do a tech recruiters conference.
Okay.
And a tech job fair.
Okay.
And a Toronto career fair as well.
Okay.
And the Toronto Entrepreneurs Conference. So we were going to have 3 or 4 events kind of between March and June. And we are moving those to virtual platforms, but the live events, we've actually pushed them all the way to the fall. Hopefully, I mean, we're hoping that we can still do them in the fall, but it's hard to know.
I know.
So at this point, yeah, that's what our plan is.
Okay. So do you want to say anything to immigrants who have landed in Canada, in the middle of all this COVID? Because I think around until there've been immigrants who have landed in Canada in Jan, Feb, and I know a couple of them myself. They were on the verge of getting their job, and just when the lockdown was announced, and then they didn't end up getting the job. So what is it that you want to tell people? Is there any kind of a positive message that you want to tell people, or who are already in Canada struggling, immigrants especially, or for immigrants who are waiting to come to Canada? Any kind of a positive message, from your side? Is there anything you want to convey to them, before we?
Yeah. So I would say 3 things. Don't lose hope. Change perhaps your expectations as to how long it may take you to find a new position, because it is going to be challenging. There's no doubt. That would be number 1. Number 2 is, when you arrive, definitely work at getting opportunities through the hidden job market. And the hidden job market are jobs that are never advertised. These are jobs that people refer. Hey, I know somebody. I might know somebody, as opposed to necessarily just responding to job postings. Mm-hmm. Job postings are good, and they will get you to a certain point. But the hidden job market is much more powerful, and much more. You'll get better opportunities, and you hear about better opportunities. So really build your network. I would say get onto LinkedIn. Right. Build your network, make your contacts, keep growing, and let people know that you're looking for opportunities. And number 3, maybe from a selfish way, is just, feel free to reach out. They can reach out to me. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can send me their resume, and I'll see if I can help them out. And I'll let them know about other events if and when they do come on board. But yeah, happy to connect with people and see what we can do.
That would be wonderful. What I'll do is I'll, leave your name, email ID, and phone number, and your website. I'll leave all those details in the description of the video. So guys, when you're watching this video, don't forget to go on to the description box and, check the details that I've put in there, so you can contact Mark and get in touch with him, before, after coming to Canada, or, when you're trying very hard in search of a job. Maybe you can get in touch with him, and probably there'll be something that he can do for you guys. So thank you so much, Mark. Thanks a lot for spending your time. We'll just hope that everything gets better soon, for all of us. And I'm just really hoping that by the end of this year, things will start looking a little brighter, hopefully, for all of us, and then we all get back to normal. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you very much.
You take care, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks very much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.